Sometimes, don't you wish it was easier to clean up, so that you could just go like this? Oh, well, that's a start. We'll work with that. Okay, I have to stop to show you this one. What kind of deluded new knitter would do this? I bought 2 balls of mohair and I started knitting one of my very first projects out of ultra expensive mohair from Loop, London. I don't know what possessed me, but I've just found it and I might just have to finish it. I'm not sure how much I like mohair now that I've grown up as a knitter, but it's just too funny. So, welcome to the new cart. Supplies at the top, knitting projects in the middle, current spinning project in the bottom. It certainly opened my eyes to how many stitch markers I have, which are now all back together, how many unfinished knitting projects I have that aren't even listed in Ravelry, and I've decided to go for just the current spinning project because I'm not spinning often enough, I'm not making enough progress, and I really would like to finish this particular project. So by putting just one, when the temptation takes me to do some spinning, this is the one I'll work on. So today I have for you a few works in progress that I'd like to show you. I have one finished object and I have my first Q&A and a few other bits. As you saw, I've sorted out the cart of shame, so I'll show you in a moment a little very quick tutorial on one of the bits that I've added to the cart. So I've added it's just a little pot for all the odds and ends that I use for things like when you need to put stitches on hold, and it's more stitches than you could put. Oops! Whoa! Flying things. Then you could put on a little stitch holder. Then I'll just use a little bit of contrasting yarn. So I like to keep a little bucket of those, and I've covered it with coffee sack burlap because I just like the look of it. So. Coffee cart. So the cart of shame, sorted. At least I've started. So before I crack on, I really wanted to say thanks to everyone who's subscribed so far. When I made this note, actually, I just passed the 200 mark, and now I think we're quickly heading towards 300. So thank you to everyone who's willing to hang out with me and spend some time chatting about nitty stuff. I'd love to hear where you're from and how you discovered the podcast anyway. So here's to just a few of the lovely people who left me messages. So Claudia in Italy, Diane in Montreal, Lara Marie in the US, and the many lovely Brits as well. Just thank you. And I love how one of the commenters, Mary Lee, called my last podcast a field trip, so the trip around London and visiting yarn shops. And I really hope that there's many more field trips to come on which I can take you with me. I had too much fun. And completely on a whim, just for fun, when we hit 500 subscribers, I'll do a little giveaway. Don't know what, probably something from my stash, but there you go. Tell your friends, and when we get to 500, I'll give something fun away. So in terms of works in progress, it's actually been a really rubbish week. So I absent-mindedly picked up the stitches for the sleeves on my Coronis, which is grey with the green stripes, and it took me a while to work out what had happened, but I think I used the same needles as you'd use for the ribbing at the waist to pick up the stitches, but that's completely the wrong size needles. So I'll have to go back about 12-15 rows and pick back up from that point and use the 3.75mm needles, not 3.25. Having said that, what I have discovered in the process is that the Fiber Spates DK High Twist looks fantastic on 3.25. It's a little bit too dense, but the stitches just look so tidy in comparison to the 3.75. So I suppose silver lining and all that. Also, I'll show you the Gemini, which I have started. So the Gemini is the one I'm making in Easy Knit's Unicorn Fart, which is awesome. So this is where I'm at. I have all of the lace edging, or the top section, done, and I'm now moving into the Stockinette Body. You know, interpretation is a wonderful thing, and it's great when you're making recipes, when you're cooking, and you can invent your own variation on something. But interpretation might not be so great when you just fail to read the pattern altogether. So I had to restart, which was the frustrating thing, because I just completely misread the pattern, and my top lace didn't make any sense after a few rows. But I've restarted, I've actually read the instructions properly, and I'm making good progress. I think this should be quite a nice, cozy, short-sleeved but quite warm top. It's originally in cotton or linen, and I'm just making it out of wool, so I'll certainly be a lot warmer. But it should be nice. And because I'm working with some very special hand-dyed, I've decided to use 2 balls at once, so 1 row in each one, which just ensures there's a little bit more consistency with the colors and with the way it pools. So hopefully I'll avoid too much wacky pooling, though it's wacky enough, I think. I wanted to cast on the Ella pullover, or at least make a swatch, which is the really lovely sock weight pullover that I mentioned 2 weeks ago. But it turns out I didn't have the right needles for it, so I ordered the needles. They've now arrived, so I'll be able to start swatching soon. Still haven't quite 100% decided on my color scheme. I know I'm using the Volmace teal color as the primary color, so I guess I'll just have to swatch and channel my inner Knitsonik, who's, if you've never seen her stuff, I gave you a glimpse in the London Yarn Crawl. It's a beautiful wall of color work. There's tons of ferrule in one in her stand, and she just has such a brilliant style. In fact, I'll link to Knitsonik in the show notes. If you're into color work, it's inspiring. It's just great for taking inspiration from the real world and from colors that you see around you and turning that into a ferrule pattern. However, while I didn't start the Ella pullover, while I had a hell of a time with the Gemini, and I still need to go back on the Coronis, I have started and finished what I truly think is my daintiest and most graceful and possibly most glorious pattern I've ever made. Yes, it really was the peak of my knitting career. Beautiful, don't you think? So I've made a little fish hat. Fish hat for my nephew. I'd been meaning to make this hat for a long time, and I think he's old enough now to find it funny. I certainly enjoyed making it. Yeah, not great knitting, not particularly graceful, but hopefully I'll make a happy 3-year-old this winter in Canada. It's actually quite a clever construction, though. So Stockinette edge makes the ribbing, then short rows to form the mouth at the front and the back, then continue in stripes and decrease all the way to the tail, split for the tail, and then add on 2 little flippers and a dorsal fin. And of course, sew on a couple of eyes. This comes from Knitty, I think 2008 or something. It's quite an old pattern. It's been in my queue forever. But just had fun making it. It took me, I started it just before going to the pub on Wednesday night, took it to knit night, and I think I had it finished by Saturday afternoon. So again, it just reminds me how much I enjoy working with Aran weight. Everything goes so much faster than with lace and sock weight. Fish hat. Now I can see you. You're looking over my shoulder. Even through the camera I can see you. You were looking at the Hitafude, weren't you? So here it is in its full glory. And you know I'd promised you a tutorial. Guess who, not so cleverly, forgot to back up her memory card before the yarn crawl? So unfortunately I've lost every bit of video from the tutorial for the Hitafude, which I'm really bummed out. I really wish I could have shown you. However, I am planning on blocking one of my older shawls that really needs reblocking because the edge is all curling up, and I think I may reblock this just in order to show you, because the techniques will still apply, but it just won't be all crumpled before I start. So technology, as much as I love it, sometimes it fails me or sometimes I fail it. So I wore the Hitafude for the yarn crawl, and it was incredibly comfortable, and amazingly, for something that's full of holes, it's very, very warm. It's very comfortable. And it coped quite well, to be honest, with me wearing a backpack on top of it, because as with any yarn, the more it gets rubbed, the more it can bubble up. And it has bubbled up in a few places, but I think it's... See? It's a lot easier to find things when you tidy your cart. So I have a just a little brush that's good for removing bubbles. I know there are some better ones. There are some quite nice ones that I've seen advertised at the bottom of Ravelry, but I haven't had any first-hand experience with those. In fact, I'd be curious if any of you have previously used them. Do leave a comment. So quite gently, there we go. So I've removed the few bubbles that were in at the bottom by the hip, where I suppose where my backpack was rubbing. And it's coped just wonderfully. Even there are other combinations that might be even stronger, so something that's got a little bit more nylon will be a little bit more resilient. That's why merino, or rather wool and nylon, are the recommended combos for socks, because it's just more resilient than wool on its own. It'll give it that little bit of extra lifespan. Question time! So I've had a few questions from viewers and from Ravelry users who've said hello. So hello! So let's start with the first question. So the first question from Nimjalo on Ravelry. On your parcel opening podcast, as you were lifting out the yarn, you showed briefly a gorgeous blue shallow shawl. May I ask what the pattern is, please? I'm a keen lace knitter and prefer those long, shallow, crescent-shaped shawls. Yes, of course I can show you. So here you go. No, wait, that's a cat. That's Jack. So, here you go. It's, I'm really sorry to say this, but it's a crochet shawl rather than a knitted shawl. I cannot take credit for this absolute beauty. So this beauty was made for me by my friend Carrie, and it's a crochet pattern made using Easy Knits Deeply Wicked in sock weight. So if you'd like to try your hand at crochet, this is the Sweet Eleanor shawl by Quince Tart. And I think it's fantastic, but I'm not very good at crochet, so it's one that I was quite happy to leave to Carrie. Next question is from Sue Bone, who says, I loved your video. Thank you, Sue. Very envious. The video is so clear and well put together. What do you use to film your podcast, and what software do you use to edit it so beautifully? Well, again, thank you, Sue. I really appreciate the comment. The camera that I use usually is a Canon G7X camera. It's really handy because it's just the size of a point and shoot, but it's, as you can see, pretty decent for video, and it's got this convenient little flip-up screen. I also sometimes use my iPhone, particularly for time lapses and things like that. I really love my... see, now I've tidied the cart, now I can't find my camera stuff. I also use a GorillaPod, which is great for using as a mini tripod. You can stick it on anything, you can clamp it around anything, and you can attach either camera. This is a little clip to attach my iPhone to. Since this sounds a bit rubbish on the G7X, I also have... let's see if I could... I also have an external microphone when I'm recording here. And finally, for editing, we use Macs here primarily, so I'm using Final Cut Pro 10, and yeah, that's pretty much it. It's not very complicated. It's lots of fun. I'm having an absolute blast recording these. Oh, and because we're coming on to winter, I have a couple of studio lights that I use when, like today, when I'm recording long after sundown, because the tiny light that I've got in my room is certainly not enough to provide light for you to see the yarn in its true color. So there you go. And final question, third question is... what's the shawl that you were wearing in episode 4? So in episode 4 I had a burgundy coloured shawl, which was the Mountain Moss shawl from Pom Pom magazine from around last year-ish. You'll have to check on Ravelry. And it's made in Skein Queen Oasis Grande, which is a camel and silk blend, and it's just the most beautiful yarn. If you can get your hand on a camel and silk blend, you'll just love it. It's so soft and lovely, and even something really light and lacy and full of holes will keep you warm, guaranteed. That and cashmere will keep you warm through any winter. Okay, so that's it for questions and answers for today. I have created a Ravelry group due to popular demand, so if you search for Along the Lanes or just click on the link in the description, there's a Ravelry group. Currently, I'm all by myself, so please do come and join me. Tell me what you're working on, tell me what you're up to, and send me your questions for next time. Okay, question of the week for you. If you could only knit one type of project, or make one type, not necessarily knitted, if you could only make one type of project for the rest of your life, you could make variations on it, but you could only knit either cardigans or socks or hats for the rest of your life, what would it be? Leave a comment, let me know what your answer to that question would be, and I'm really curious. Next week I'll give you my answer, if I can decide. So that's it for today. Thank you for hanging out with me, and don't forget to say hi. I'm Vero on Twitter. I'm That Canadian Girl on Ravelry and Instagram, and you can now join me in the Ravelry group Along the Lanes, and I will see you next week. Bye bye! Is it hot in here, or is it you guys? It's called the Sweet Eleanor shawl. So, what's flying around? Ooh. Okay, disruption.